Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely buzzing today because sitting across from me is a man who defined showmanship. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
I am Freddie Mercury. You might know me as the lead singer of a little band called Queen, but more than that, I'm just a man who loved to perform and give the audience a bit of magic.
And what a legend you are. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on September 5th, 1946, on the beautiful spice island of Zanzibar. It was quite a tropical start to life, wasn't it?
Absolutely exotic. Now, I think a lot of fans might be surprised by this one. What was your given name at birth?
My birth name was Farouk Bulsara. Freddie didn't come along until I was away at school, and Mercury came much later when I felt I needed a name that captured the energy of the music I was making.
Was there a story behind your birth name?
It's a traditional Parsi name. My parents, Jair and Bomi Bulsara, were of Parsi descent from India. It's a name that carries a lot of history, though I think I always knew I'd eventually find a name that felt a bit more theatrical.
It definitely fits the persona. What was your hometown like growing up?
Zanzibar was vibrant and colorful, but I spent much of my youth in Panchgani, India, at St. Peter's boarding school. It was nestled in the mountains, very scenic, very disciplined, and that's where I really found my love for music.
What was your family life like?
My family was very close-knit and quite traditional. My father worked for the British Colonial Office. They were lovely, supportive people, even if they didn't quite understand my flamboyant side right away. I had a younger sister, Kashmira, whom I adored.
What kind of kid were you?
I was actually quite shy, would you believe it? I had a bit of an overbite, which I later realized helped my vocal range, so I never fixed it. But as a boy, I used to cover my mouth when I smiled. But put me near a piano, and the shyness just evaporated.
That's incredible. What were your biggest fears growing up?
Oh, I think like many children, I feared not being accepted or being ordinary. The thought of a mundane, quiet life was much more frightening to me than any ghost or monster.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I wanted to be an artist. I loved drawing and design. Music was always there, of course. But in my early years, I really saw myself in the world of fashion or graphic arts.
Those artistic roots definitely showed in your costumes. What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Aside from my piano lessons, I actually enjoyed sports. I was a decent sprinter, and I played a lot of hockey and boxing. But really, the school band, the Hectics, was the highlight of my life.
What was your first job?
After my family moved to London, I had a few odd jobs while I was at Ealing Art College. I worked at Heathrow Airport as a baggage handler, and later I had a stall at Kensington Market, selling vintage clothes and my own artwork.
Imagine getting your bags from Freddie Mercury. Was there a moment where you realised you were different from everyone else?
I think I always felt like a bit of an outsider, being a boy from Zanzibar in a London art school. But the real realization came on stage. I felt a power there that I didn't feel anywhere else. I realized I could command a room.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Joining a band called Smile after their lead singer left. I was friends with Brian May and Roger Taylor, and I used to follow them around telling them they were great, but they needed more showmanship. When I finally stepped in, that was the spark that became Queen.
And the rest is history. What was your biggest break?
It has to be Bohemian Rhapsody. Everyone told us it was too long, that no radio station would play a 6-minute song with an opera section. But we stuck to our guns, and when it took off, it changed the world for us.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Money was always tight. We lived in small flats and ate a lot of baked beans. We also faced a lot of rejection early on. People didn't know what to make of our look or our sound.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. I'm much too stubborn for that, darling. I knew we had something special. If one door closed, we just found a way to kick another one open.
That's the spirit. Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I wouldn't call myself a creature of habit, but I was a perfectionist in the studio. I would spend hours, days, even weeks layering vocals to get that wall of sound. And of course, I always had my tea.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I likely would have stayed in graphic designer fashion. I loved the visual side of things. I designed the Queen crest myself.
It's an iconic logo. What was your life like before fame?
It was a bit of a scramble, but it was exciting. London in the late 60s and early 70s was a magical place to be an art student. There was so much creativity in the air.
How did relationships change after success?
It becomes harder to know who to trust. But I stayed very close to Mary Austin. She was the love of my life, even as things evolved. My inner circle remained small and very loyal.
Did fame bring happiness?
It brought the ability to express myself on a grand scale, which made me very happy. But happiness is a fleeting thing, isn't it? I found my greatest joy in the work and in the love of my friends. And my cats, of course.
Ah, the cats. We have to talk about them later. What was the downside of becoming famous?
The loss of privacy. I am a very private person at heart. And having people dig into your personal life can be quite draining.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was this wild, arrogant person all the time because of how I acted on stage. In reality, I was often quite quiet and even a bit boring at home.
What was your darkest moment?
There were times in the mid-'80s where I felt a bit lost in the fame of it all, questioning the direction of the music and the band. But we always found our way back to each other, especially at Live Aid.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I don't believe in dwelling on regrets. I lived life to the fullest. Perhaps I wished I had been a bit more careful at times, but everything I did made me who I was.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That everything was easy because I looked confident. Every performance was a massive expenditure of energy and nerves. I cared deeply about every single person in that audience.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
During our early tours, equipment would break, the lights would fail, or we'd be booed by fans waiting for a different headliner. I handled it by being even more Freddie. If they didn't like us, I'd make sure they'd at least never forget us.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It allowed me to surround myself with beautiful things. I loved my house, garden lodge, and I loved being able to take care of my friends. But at my core, I was still the same boy who loved to play the piano.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
Musically, Jimi Hendrix and Aretha Franklin. Personally, Mary Austin. She was my rock.
What was life like in your final years?
I spent a lot of time in Montreux, Switzerland, by the lake. It was peaceful. I worked as much as I could because the music kept me going. I wanted to leave as much behind as possible for the fans.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was recording tracks that would eventually become the Made in Heaven album. I told the boys, write me anything and I'll sing it. I just wanted to keep creating until the very end.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on November 24th, 1991, at my home, Garden Lodge in Kensington, London.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a world-class philatelist. That's a fancy word for a stamp collector. My childhood stamp collection is actually in the British Postal Museum now.
A stamp collector. I love that. What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were so many. The craziest was probably the story about dwarfs carrying trays of cocaine on their heads at my parties. It was pure fiction, but it made for a great headline, didn't it?
What was your most unique habit?
I used to have my staff keep a notepad and pen by my bed in case I woke up with a melody in the middle of the night. Oh, and I talked to my cats on the phone when I was on tour.
What was your favorite food?
I loved spicy food. My mother's Parsi cooking was always a favorite, especially her dansak.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I loved Joe Allen's in London. It was a wonderful theatrical spot where I could just be myself.
What was your favorite book?
I wasn't much of a reader, actually. I preferred looking at art books or magazines about interior design and auction catalogs.
Did you have any known rivalries?
People tried to make out that I had a rivalry with David Bowie or Sid Vicious. but it was all just noise. Usually we all got along quite well, even if Sid and I did have a funny little spat in the studio once.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
I once snuck Princess Diana into a gay club called the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. We dressed her up in an army jacket, a cap, and sunglasses, so she looked like a male model. She had a marvelous time because no one recognized her.
That is legendary. What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Recording Under Pressure with David Bowie. It was just a night of wine, food, and madness. We were arguing over the bass line and the lyrics, and somehow, out of that chaos, a hit was born.
Did you ever prank someone?
I loved a good laugh. I used to tease Roger Taylor relentlessly about his car. He was so obsessed with it. I might have decorated it a few times.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I bought a lot of Japanese art and furniture. My house was like a museum. But honestly, the most outlandish thing was probably the sheer amount of koi carp I had in my garden pond. They were very expensive fish.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Be yourself, darling. Don't try to be what others want you to be. And work hard. Talent is only half the battle. You have to have the determination to be the best.
Freddie, this has been an absolute dream. Before we sign off, do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just that I hope my music still makes people want to dance and feel a little bit more fabulous. Life is too short to be boring. Thank you for remembering me. And thank you, Calvin, for a lovely chat. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Freddie. Truly a one-of-a-kind legend. We've journeyed from the shores of Zanzibar to the stage of Live Aid today. And I think we all feel a little more champion after that. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.